Hello, welcome back to List Stuff. My name's Nat.
And I'm Ossie. And we've had a longer than intended summer break. Some apologies for that. You know, it was nice. You know.
Summer apologies.
Summer apologies, yeah. Thanks.
Come on, Cap, that's what you're doing.
I
didn't know if that was pun intended or none.
All puns are intended, even if I didn't know I was doing them.
I think that's a good general rule of thumb.
I'll claim them.
It's like there's a pun there. It's like, yeah, of course.
It's like in football. If a footballer scores a goal and it was clearly meant to be a pass or something, or if it like bobbled off someone's bum, they always go, "No, I meant it. And claim it. And I think it's the same with puns.
Yeah. I was gonna, we should carry on. I was gonna talk to you a bit about football then. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But so
probably not then.
All right.
How was your summer?
God, it feels really uneventful. I haven't been away. I was working. I haven't necessarily been that busy either. And if anything, it's been this I didn't do. So I had a bit more free time. I had bits more free time than I normally do. But because I was still also working, it doesn't feel like I had any free time. Yeah. So it's been a weird mix of stuff. But generally, fine. How's your summer been?
I think it's good. I mean, you know, it's a lot of childcare when the kids are off school for 6 weeks, and like they started the summer like not knowing how to play with each other because they'd forgotten, you know, had to spend a lot of time together. Then after a week they learn that, and then after another 3 weeks they get tired of that and they're fighting for the rest of it. So you know, by the time of getting them back to school at the end of summer or starting school for the little one, it was like, this is great. Bye, you know. So I wouldn't wish it to be longer like I did when I was a kid. Put it that way.
Right.
But the highlight of my summer is definitely becoming an uncle.
That's right.
I did very little to become an uncle, just existing really, having a sister. But it's I'm trying to now work uncle jokes into my dad joke repertoire. But yeah.
I was going to say, do you feel like it's in the same ballpark, or do you feel that you can be avuncular in a different way than you would be as a father?
I think being an uncle comes naturally. I think it's easy. I think, but you have to sort of become a dad and work it out. Whereas I think I can work out how to be an uncle, no probs.
The thing I'm always wary of, I feel that you've got sort of license to give kids sweets if you're an uncle, as in nieces and nephews, but you don't feel any responsibility of having them being given sweets that might make them hyperactive. I think grandparents, and that's general rule. Like kind of
grandparents, uncles,
just got to deal with it.
You don't have, you know, it's not your problem to make sure their teeth don't rot. That's like their parents' problem, and you know, you're on the kid's side. I think that's fine.
But do you feel that you'll be a more responsible uncle in that kind of thing? You'll have more of a perspective.
I may be like, I know the rules of the parenting and stuff, so I guess in that way I might not. But then I might just decide to break them because it's not my kids. So, you know, could be good.
Could be good.
Yeah, that's definite highlight. Amazing, beautiful baby. What are we doing this week?
This week we're doing things beginning with K.
K.
How did you find coming up with the K list?
It's hard, isn't it? Any letter where it has a rival letter with the same sound, you know, C, for instance. Yeah. It's hard. I was asking the kids, what do you think is good beginning with K? And they were like, cake! And I was like, no, it's not beginning with K. What else? You know, just loads of stuff that we can just see. So I think K very much the niche, the overlooked K.
Yeah, you know? It feels a bit alternative, doesn't it? K. Yeah, it's the alternative C.
Yeah, I think so. I think.
Yeah, you're right.
In the shadow.
Yeah,
especially like a C can also do, you know, S and Ch.
Ch's. Yeah.
And K is just stuck there being K, really.
K sounds, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think there is another sound you can make. You can get cruz, but you can also do that with a C.
I guess you've got the silent K. I didn't think of that. Huh. Anything with a silent K that I need to work in?
Do you feel that you've got any controversial choices or anything in your case?
I don't think controversial. I did write down my worst thing beginning with K.
Yeah, I've got some bad ones as well.
We'll get to them afterwards, so that in case anyone was wondering if they're going to be on the top 5, you never know.
Sure. You never know how awful we are.
Yeah. I thought it was a really strong one for music, actually, K. It's a big one for music for me, so that features heavily. I couldn't think of anything to eat beginning with K.
Yeah, I got a couple of eats,
Oh
but
yeah,
but only in a kind of honourable mentions.
Yeah.
Not in a full top 5. My top 5, I think, is controversial because of how much the top 5 was. It was too like my top 5 has changed every time I look at the list.
Wow.
And so I feel like it's made me feel like I don't know if I can I can stand by the top 5, but the ordering has been too like I don't know. And I've been moving things around. That's as soon as I got the top 5. Every time I've looked at it since, I feel like I'm worried it won't feel definitive because I'll have by the time I get to my top one, I'll be like,
do you feel like your list off muscles have atrophied over
maybe
the last
that's it.
couple of months?
Whereas I feel like that's the important thing as well, is to have it top 5 in order.
The order matters.
I'm happy with it, but I'm happy with it right now rather than like if I like. I feel like if I heard this in a year or a week or a month, would I be like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Why is that there? My number 5 is Kermit the Frog.
Ooh, that's controversial because he was your like number one puppet.
Yeah. This is it. It feels like this is it. It feels like I'm kind of a bit like should probably be higher, but then I'm kind of trying to dig deep and go. Like I feel like no, because he's in the top 5. I'm not going to knock him, but I do sort of wonder if he has lost some luster for me in the past, maybe 6 or 7 years, but not in a. He's still top 5. He's still very important. I think he's like. I really like that he is the bridge between the Muppet Show and Sesame Street, and I think that is very important for the kind of shared universe I've always thought existed, even though it's confusing now because they obviously have 2 different owners. How that kind of slightly messes with the format. I never know. Like the children's television workshops feels very separate from the Disney Muppets now, and yet Kermit seems very much like he's in Sesame Street. He's definitely the same guy.
Yeah, I don't know if he appears in Sesame Street now. I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, I wonder if they have drawn a line. Yeah.
They may have got it written into the contract that he can be in both.
Yeah, I mean, but certainly he's an important figure. He is kind of an everyman of sorts. But then I was thinking that, is he? He's one of those characters who is both like lovable, but then I also like about him is he's kind of flawed. He's not a great, he's a great guy, but he's not perfect. He's flawed. Yeah, he's flawed, and he's not always the best partner, and frequently not always the best partner. But I feel like there's a lesson to be learned there, and in some ways I kind of think of him like, well, he's like an everyman. And I go, is he? And sometimes I think I can relate to Kermit, and sometimes I think I don't know if I can relate to Kermit. You know, he's a sort of in this sort of weird world. I guess he's a sort of meant to be the kind of straightest one in the kind of odd world of the Muppets.
Yeah.
But it's not to take anything away from him. Whatever, however I feel about him, he's still high up, and it would seem weird for him not to be in a top 5.
My number 5 is the 1997 Martin Scorsese film Kundun. It is my favorite film beginning with K. I'm pretty sure about that. And absolutely love the film. There are lots of reasons. It's the black sheep of the Martin Scorsese canon. It's like, what did you make? I made a ton of films about guys in New York, you know, some of them were gangsters, some of them looked like comedians or something, but like they were, you know, it was that, and it's like, and what else? Oh yeah, I made a film about the Dalai Lama, you know, and it's just, and there's because you don't have all the kind of comparisons to his other films, you really can see just what his filmmaking is kind of his actual direction. Where can you draw the parallels there? Because texturally and, you know, topically, it's, you know, thousands of miles away. But it's still it's a fantastic film. You know, it's really one of my favorite films of his, and I love the soundtrack. I think I'd seen Koyaanisqatsi before I saw Kundun, because they used to show it on Channel 4 in the middle of the night, sort of every week. You know, it was like
another K film.
Another K film. Not as good of a film, but it's quite a thing to watch. But so I was vaguely aware of Philip Glass, but like the soundtrack for Kundun to me is like astonishing. Absolutely. It's that thing of a film soundtrack where the film really influences the music. So Philip Glass, I love Philip Glass. An awful lot of his music sounds like the rest of his music. You know, like this is a minimalist classical composer who, by being minimalist, is sort of essential. You know what I mean? He's essentialist. Everything is like, you know, bit of piano, bit of chimes or something, bit of vocal, but it's doing the similar sorts of things. And because of doing this, you know, Tibetan film, he got these Tibetan singers in and made the gong sounds and all this. It's incredible. So he like pushed him to do something very different, and it's incredible, absolute jewel in his career as well. And it's written by Melissa Matheson, who wrote E.T. and was married to Harrison Ford, and, you know, and did the Indian in the Cupboard with Frank Oz, another Frank Oz Muppet connection. And I just think it's a mind-boggling film. I went to see it twice at the cinema. It's beautiful beyond all belief. It's kind of like a fantasy film, you know. It has magic stuff in it, or, you know, mystical religious stuff in it that I don't believe in remotely, but it presents it as kind of fact, you know, like a fantasy film would. You know, this is the world that we're in, and the incredible kind of castle that they recreated. It's just incredible. It's an unbelievable film. Love it.
I was trying to think of if I've seen it since it came out, but I remember loving it when it came out, and it's really, when you're talking about it, it's like, oh yeah, I have to see this again. But I did. I mean, like, I don't know if it's necessarily like a black sheep. I guess it is.
Maybe
It's
Black
not
Sheep.
even
I mean,
like
maybe that's
no
not what
one
I mean.
talks about it now. No one talks about it.
People make jokes about it. People make jokes about it. It's almost like a meme film now. It's like, hey, did you know Marty Scorsese made a film about? Yeah, it's like a kind of like, did you know? You know, for younger generations, it's like, what? Has it got like, you know, guys with guns? It's like, no, it hasn't got guys with, you know, it's yeah.
Right, yeah, it's like, no, it's a really good movie from what and certainly it is like that, very kind of mystical, almost like, but yeah, exactly like you say, it almost feels like you're watching some sort of fantasy, but it's, you know, it's about a real life guy, because it follows the rules that people are living by, which seem kind of crazy, and why are we doing this and why are we doing that. Yeah, no, I remember really liking it though, and I was trying to think who did the soundtrack, but I wonder even if I'd known who Philip Glass was when I'd seen it. But that's interesting. Yeah, no, I remember it being a really kind of like really good movie when I saw it though, and it was sort of, would have come out at the time when I was kind of getting more and more into films, and I remember, like, you know, I'm going to see the new Martin Scorsese movie. It felt a bit like that, and
Right,
being
because
like,
I think had the ambulance one been out just before it?
oh, Bringing Out the Dead. Yeah, I'd
But
seen
it'd
that
been a
too.
while. Like I think,
Yeah,
and then before that is Casino. It wasn't the very prolific period, so it felt like a big deal.
yeah,
Like he's got the film out. If you haven't seen it, I mean, it's about the Dalai Lama,
yeah,
the current Dalai Lama, but his sort of early years, him coming into his role, regenerating,
yeah.
whatever, you know, and then the invasion by Mao and everything, and it's just it's just got incredible sort of set pieces and
Hmm.
of sort of massacre and things, and the color palette of it is astonishing. It's
I was just
great.
thinking of it in terms of like films now, and just going that you would have the budget to do that now. Like, because I guess it was at a time someone would have gone like, "Oh, we're doing this film about the Dalai Lama. I'm Martin Scorsese, but I'm going to need this much money." And they go, "Oh, you're Martin Scorsese, huh? Sure." It's
Yeah,
like that sort of kind of
yeah.
like
It's got an
just would never
incredible. It's
happen.
got an incredible budget actually for what was never going to be a very successful film. You know, like
Yeah,
it's a purely really an art house film. The most
yeah,
it could hope for is like to win some awards, and you know what I mean, to
yeah,
play in art house cinemas. I know I saw it at the ABC Shaftesbury Avenue. It's now called the Odeon Covent Garden. But yeah, that it was. I saw it at least twice in cinema. Love it.
yeah. It's a really good movie, and for someone who's like makes films where he's kind of obsessed with his own Catholicism, I guess there's probably a lot of that in it as well, and him following his own little religious kind of push me pull you life he leads, and applying it to a completely different religion and discipline and things. Yeah, that's really yeah, that's a good one. Didn't even occur to me. And nice to be reminded of it. My number 4 is the band The Kinks. It sort of felt like, oh yeah, they should be in there. I need to have the Kinks in there. Again, placing was difficult, but they've landed in number 4. Plus, I'd had Waterloo Sunset in my best things
W's.
beginning with
Yeah.
W's, and it felt like, oh man, but then that doesn't even leave on anything that's on Village Green Appreciation Society or anything like that. And I do think like I'm sort of always wary of like Ray and Dave Davis as people that I always think are gonna like are they gonna do something that's gonna horrify me at some point in their personal lives? And they so far so good, and they're knocking on now. And uh, I saw Ray Davis in a pub a couple of years ago in Highgate, and you go, oh wow, it's Ray Davis, the actual Ray Davis. And I think it's not like they're a band who haven't been lauded, but I do think they are like. I think in some ways they kind of don't get their due because there's something they're never really doing what you think anyone would want them to do. So I don't think they're ever going to be the Stones or
Mm.
the Beatles because they're always just doing like their own little kind of quite kind of folksy songs about real life that are kind
Well,
of
yeah, well, they changed tack. Like when they've got fans who are like, "Oh, I love this stuff you're doing." They're like, "Yeah, we're gonna do something quite different," and you know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean. We're not gonna do what everybody wants us to do. I mean, my favorite Kink stuff is the early stuff, which is punk. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
garage rock. It's you really got me all
yeah,
day and all the night. That stuff to me is like you really got me. Still sounds it sounds far
yeah,
more you know. Visceral and
yeah,
noisy than the Sex Pistols or stuff that was happening 10 years later or whatever. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
insane how hard that rocks, you know?
And I really like that people always do that thing like unlike especially like American people they go yeah well that's the first the godfathers of heavy metal the Kinks and you also go yeah but it's funny
It's
because
funny
they're
because
also the Kinks.
they're also
they're,
like
they're
the Village Green Preservation Society, you know?
it's like they're that guy and it's this sort of like how they've got these different audiences for what they're
Yeah.
doing and to certain people they're this band and to other people they're this other band, whereas I think again they're probably just sort of following their muse and doing things which at the time I guess would be that you wouldn't get now where they're not really doing things that are particularly commercial,
Mm.
but they're like they'll probably do something later that will be a hit. And I guess it's that funny thing of like when record companies just kind of go, I guess we'll just stick with these guys and well, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's
but
this or get someone new.
it also depends how much money you want to make. Like, you know,
Mm,
it's very easy to compare them to the Who, and the Who,
yeah,
for large chunks of the last 50 years, have really pursued making money, you know, and doing
yeah,
big tours and, you know, making musicals and films and all this thing, you know, like they pushed that really hard. And I think the Kinks would probably just, like you say, they'd probably like being able to go in a pub in North London, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I do. I used to.
yeah. Me too. Me too.
They're great. They are great. I think for me, like, not being a kind of rocky folky albums guy, it's like, yeah, it's the singles to me that I have in the collection and think of. But yeah, you know, to most of their fans, they're like, it's all about these kind of concept albums and stuff. And
Yeah, but I think that, but it is that they've kind of got both.
mm,
Really, I
mm,
think
mm.
that's really kind of exciting, and I think it's just like people also getting older and going, I've, it's like people that are performing and making music at a time they're still young enough to be learning about stuff
Mm, mm, mm.
and
Yeah, of
going,
course.
I've just found out about thing. And then it sort of, that comes into whatever they're doing next or whatever.
Yeah,
Hey, I've just
absolutely.
heard this. I've read this book. I've done this.
It's better. It makes it all the more baffling when you have bands that sound the same when they're
Yeah.
19 as when they're 49. You know, that
Yeah. Yeah.
79. You know, I mean, yeah. No, that it makes it's very right to
Hmm.
grow and change and stuff for a band. My number 4 is kung fu movies. Not kung fu, because like I don't do kung fu. You know, I wouldn't go and watch some guys doing kung fu. Really,
Sure.
I mean, like if they were doing it in the street, I'd probably watch. You know, like what's going on. You know, much better than watching a normal fight. But that's my thing about kung fu movies. I'm not a massive action film person. I really don't like watching kind of punch in the face action films. I don't like martial arts really. Like I don't like watching boxing. I find it miserably brutal and horrible. I don't get a lot out of watching any kind of fighting stuff like that, like sword fighting or something. But I like it quite fantastical, and kung fu's kind of balletic, heavily choreographed, incredible precision, implausible things. That I love that. It's just an incredible art to me. And whether it's like, you know, oldies, your Bruce Lee and your Shaw Brothers and, you know, Golden Harvest and stuff, or really modern stuff, which is mind-boggling in a different way. I love it all, and it's not something I watch much of now, but I really loved kung fu movies growing up. You know, as a young man, absolutely fantastic. And when other stuff that I liked as a young man disappears, and I think, oh, why did I watch all that? Especially a lot of kind of more violent kind of films with lots of guns in and stuff, and I think like,
Right.
oh, I couldn't even watch that film now. You know, if I think of something, I think of some of those like Takeshi Kitano violent cop kind of films. You know, that
Mm.
most of those films, even when they've got beautiful bits, just horribly violent. You know, and I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna feel like watching that, but I feel like watching a Jackie Chan movie,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
proper
Yeah.
Jackie Chan movie. You know, Police Story or something. Incredible.
I feel like it's something I only really have a kind of ankle deep knowledge of. What I've seen, I really like, but I still feel like it's something that I kind of always feel like I should probably try and take more of a deep dive into that. But I feel slightly like I don't like them as much as I feel like when I do, I go like, I'm missing something here. I'm not getting the full context of this. But I do, every time I kind of make an effort with any, I love it. And certainly stuff like, Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee are all very much like, um, got it,
Yeah.
got it. I like the premise. I like it. I guess the difference is that, in a way, there are films where people are getting hurt making those films, but generally, if they are, it's because something's gone a bit wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like
Totally.
someone has been kicked in the face, but it was like it's a bit like, oh,
And
sorry,
everyone's like,
like
sorry,
it's a bit.
sorry. Yeah.
They did get kicked in the face still, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really meant to happen, or it was only meant to like hit him a bit. and they've like ended up with like a bloody nose or something.
Well,
But
generally the accidents were from cutting corners for saving money. So Jackie Chan or somebody would be like, no, that's like 7 different shots. I'll just jump off the helicopter into the back of the truck in real life, and you can film that, and that will save us like $20,000. You know, like,
how much will it save us in the time you're going to be in hospital? Don't worry about that.
That happens though on some of those films. That happens, and it's like, I remember being like, people being like, oh, if you look at this shot, you can see that's not him, and all the long shots, that's not him because he was in hospital. You know.
But with that as well, it's that kind of thing. And we'll also put it at the end so everyone can laugh at me getting hit by a lorry. And you go, sure, that's healthy.
Yeah.
But I was in hospital. So, so laugh all you like. But I have been really hurt.
I loved it when, after kind of we have like the Yuen Woo-ping, where he kind of crossed over, and there was the Matrix and Crouching Tiger, which is, not kung fu, it's wuxia or whatever, it's fantasy historical type thing. But like for that little while, when you had a Hollywood movie, the fighting in it was like choreographed kung fu, and I loved that for a bit. And it feels like now finally that's kind of worn off for the most part. I'm interested to see this Shang-Chi film to see if you can bring it back a bit, because I really like I like watching these Marvel movies and everything, but the amount of punch in the face, stagger backwards, punch in the face, it's like it feels like we've gone back in time. Especially if you watch something like Netflix shows they did. Oh, geez, just punchy, punchy. I hate that stuff. Like the worst for me like that ever. The anti kung fu for me is, do you know the Every Which Way But Loose films? The Clint Eastwood orangutan films.
Of course.
They have the most stupidest, awful fight scenes ever, right?
Aren't they like they sort of almost take turns punching each other?
They take turns like staggering forward, throwing a huge haymaker into their face, and then they don't fall over. They just stagger and then come back with a huge one. Like no one attempts to not get punched in the face, but also there are no repercussions from getting punched in the face.
Sure, yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. But the orangutan does give people the finger and stuff.
It does give people the finger.
So
yeah,
swings and roundabouts.
Yeah,
swings and roundabouts. My number 3 is Kurt Russell.
It's a good K.
It's a good K. King Kurt, I always think of. Incredible career. Incredible. When you kind of think of it like, now he's kind of like character actor. In the 80s, he's star. Up until mid to late 90s, he's star. He's now kind of getting older, being a character actor. But he's also child star in like late 60s, mid 60s TV, does films, becomes the kind of poster boy of Walt Disney movies in the early 70s, which resulted in perhaps a comedy routine that was successful for me. So I have a lot of time for him personally. But also, even as a kid, growing up with the sort of John Carpenter movies, and especially stuff like Big Trouble in Little China, where he's this kind of completely unlikely leading man, where he's not brave. He's almost just trying to get his truck back, and he's not interested in any of the kind of storylines that's happening, but he's there, and being kind of funny and able to do that kind of, he's a leading man. But I think the reason why he never really took off in a big way as a leading man, because he's always kind of winking and being a bit like, I'm not really like that guy. I'm like a comedian. I'm pretending to be a leading man. And so I was always a big fan of him growing up. And he is one of those people that, almost however old he is, he's super charming on screen. He is like an old-fashioned movie star, because he's all like, it's just like, I really like this guy. And you respond in a way when you're a kid. And the older I get, and he's got older, and I've seen films when he's younger and films when he's older, he's still got this thing where he's like he's still probably almost, for me, he's one of like the kind of ultimate movie stars. Even though I guess his career is probably like the period he was a movie star is probably 4 years. Other than that, he's kind of an actor in low budget movies and or he's character actor. But
Mm.
still, it's almost like you could still probably put him in a lead in a film now, and everyone would go, "Oh yeah, sure, Kurt Russell, I'll allow it," because he's still got this like he's still got such a kind of charisma. I really like that he's had this incredibly long marriage to Goldie Hawn. I really like seeing when she puts stuff on Instagram. There's a great one where it's his birthday and they're going out for a day out and they're just super charming couple and they sort of act a bit like, oh, it's me and the old ball and chain, and they're all a bit like, and it's like, yeah, but you're Goldie Hawn and he's Kurt Russell, and it's that sort of. I find them super charming as a couple. I find him like incredibly charming as a leading man, uh, and also in his filmography are tons of movies I love. Like
Mm.
he's probably like for someone who's good, it's easy for him to like because you can watch a whole bunch of his movies and be like happy with this. You're
Mm.
not losing out. You can
Yeah.
watch. You could program yourself a little Kurt Russell season, and they could all be brilliant films. And go brilliant. You don't have to sit through anything bad. Not to say. I mean, he's definitely made some bad films,
Yeah.
but you could probably get 7 or 8 really good movies back to back and be like happy with all
And
these.
from, like you said, like really different eras of his career. Like you've got
Mm,
Disney kids movies, right? You've got John Carpenter films. This is,
yeah,
just pretty much on the far horror side of mainstream filmmaking and pretty
yeah.
edgy stuff. I mean, not Big Trouble in Little China, but you know what I mean? Like the thing, or it's and then Overboard. You know,
Yeah, of course, of
Overboard.
course.
That's number one for me, hundred
Yeah, of
percent.
course. That's the that's the
That's
movie that launched it. That launched the romance of the century.
yeah.
Um, but I love it, and I love that they're still together. I think it's really sweet, and they're a really kind of like great. Love it. Love to see him. King Kurt, love him. He was the one of the other weird facts about it, which he has no idea why. I guess it was just because they were making the movies at the time, but he would have been. Oh, that actually probably predates those movies, which might be why they cast him in the first place. But on when Walt Disney died,
Mm.
the last thing Walt Disney ever wrote on a piece of paper was Kurt Russell.
Ooh.
That's it. That's a spooky thing. And also, he was in Elvis at the World's Fair. That movie when he's a little child actor,
Yeah.
and he plays Elvis when he grows up.
Yep.
Love it. Love all that stuff.
Maybe
Love it.
Kurt Russell was the name of Walt Disney's childhood sledge.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe that's
Out there. It's possible. Do you like him in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie where he's like a creepy de-aged version of himself?
I'm not a big fan of that de-aging thing, only because when they do it, I always think it's weird when they do it on actors where you go, yeah, but I know what they look like when they were that age, so you should reference that more,
Yeah.
right? It's like they do it with Michael Douglas as well in Endgame, and it's like, sure, but he didn't look like that then. You should just more. You shouldn't do a de-aging. You should look at those films and go, we should look like this, right? Because
Yeah.
we know what he looked like then. And so,
It's a bit like the
I think
thing.
he's
Don't you love it in TV programs and movies where they have a picture of the character when they were younger, and obviously the actor's been sent home. Like, can you get a picture from when you're about 18?
Yeah.
I love that. I love the process that they go through. Like, I don't have any pictures of that age. Oh, come on, go and find.
I like it when they do it and they go, they do that, but what they produce is something that's meant to be like them at high school or something, but it's obviously like a headshot from when they're like young actors.
22.
And it's like that's
Yeah.
not going to be like what someone's going to have on their wall. Why would
Yeah.
they have a headshot? What for?
It's generally a wrong angle as well. Do you know what I mean? Where the
Yeah.
head is sideways, but the body's straight on. Love it. Don't know what letter that begins with, but it'd be up there. My number 3. It's all music from here. my number 3 is a double K. It's Koji Kondo. Probably don't know Koji Kondo,
No,
but
I don't.
he's very famous in a certain sphere of life. He's the composer of the music, the original music for the Super Mario and the Legend of Zelda games for Nintendo.
Ah,
And
okay.
he's a master. Absolutely. I'm not one of these people that buys loads of video game soundtracks. Nowadays, it's just orchestral music most of the time, literally played by an orchestra, recorded and played through the video game because there are no limits on the audio. In fact, it's probably better quality on your 5.1 Dolby surround setup that you play games on than it is on your stereo, which is probably like a little Bluetooth speaker you can put in the shower or something, you know. But this is back when, you know, 8-bit video games, 16-bit, and the you know, those tunes, even if you don't play a video game, you know those Mario themes, you know, the overland and the underground themes from the original Mario Brothers, just incredible. They're just like etched into my every bit of my body. It's just the essential music, and you can play them. They've been reinterpreted and replayed and re-recorded a billion times and expanded into huge. You can go and see, you know, full orchestral versions at the Albert Hall or something, or you can just listen to this little 8-bit version of it, and it's fantastic. And the skill it takes to make music good, because I've played all those old video games, most of them have got terrible music, you know, and the best you could hope for is that it doesn't annoy you to death, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas Mario, and then to a lesser extent for me, Zelda, because I don't think the early Zelda music is that great, but when he does get into the 90s and mid 90s and he gets to really do more with it and expand, then that's when he really gets incredible with the Zelda stuff. But again, it's just tunes, it's melodies and themes that come back to you, and it's much like Star Wars music or something like that. Just a little hint of this little tune will give you the idea, you know, will bring you this image. You can throw it in anywhere in a game series. It's incredible music. It's an incredibly talented guy.
And did they keep him on at Nintendo? Was he someone who was
yeah, I think they kept him
there
for 20 years or more. I mean, he was the first person they hired to do music. So it was like, you come and do music for us. You know, before that, they'd, you know, contracted people to do music for games, but he was the first person they brought, like, you're going to come in house and be our music guy.
Yeah.
And they had lots of other people work on other games later on. So it's not like he did all the Nintendo music, but he did the main Mario themes. Although not, I think, the Game Boy game. I think that familiar tune is not him. Certainly not his style. I might be wrong. But the Zelda. So it's like he just occupies this very special place. There's no one else really on that level from that era. You know, nowadays there's all kinds of video game composers, but the budget you get to make a video game soundtrack is better than what you're going to get to make a film soundtrack. It's better than what you're going to get to make any other record. So it's not quite the same thing anymore. You know, you could get the best musicians in the world, the best studio, everything.
Yeah.
It's not.
And also it's interesting, like you said, like part of the interesting thing is built on the limitations you have
Absolutely
to produce that in the first place. You can only have certain tones or sounds.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. You can't do everything.
Absolutely. So it's an incredible thing to work with those restrictions and make great music. That the melodies are so good that in our heads we hear them as full pieces of music, you know. Actually what we heard was just MIDI tones on a very cheap synthesizer inside a Nintendo console, you know. He's a proper hero.
And also I think, although like I don't know, like when they do those kind of full orchestra things of video game music, and it always feels a bit like there's an element of people kind of winking and being like, yeah, we're doing this, but the idea that that's possible, I guess, shows at the level of kind of music writing that they are doing something which you can play to an orchestra. So there must be a level of it where it's achievable in that form as well.
Yeah, I mean, you could transpose anything to an orchestra if you really wanted to, but it's you're only going to do it if there's the level of love there for it that you can justify having 70 people on the stage.
Yeah.
And yeah, one day I'll get around to going to one of those events. I just don't want to go to one that's shared with a bunch of games that I never played and don't care about, you know. I have to work. I'll just have to go to a special Koji Kondo one. Keep an eye out.
My number 2 is kettles. Kettles. I like hot drinks. I drink tea. To a lesser extent, I drink coffee. Some people are going, oh, well, maybe you don't need kettles to do coffee. It's all hot milk. Not the coffee I've been drinking. I want some. I want some cheap coffee. I like a kettle. I also like a kettle in the kind of British kettle. I like. I don't mind a kettle you put on top of a stove, but I always do feel that it seems to take longer. I always feel they look nice, but I think I'm slightly impatient with kettles often, and I like the idea of just using that filament, heating up the filament, boiling some water as quickly as possible. I like to, if I want a tea, I basically do it, and I'm basically holding the jug part until it boils, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of want that virtually immediately.
So, are you saying you'd be in the market for one of these boiling taps in your house?
Do you know what? I love the idea of it. I also slightly mistrust it. Love the idea. Seen it done.
Yeah.
Been given tea from one of these taps.
Yeah.
It has worked, and yet there's something psychologically where I'm like, nah, I don't know. Like, to me, there's that thing where when I was a kid, I remember I'd always say, well, why don't I just make tea with the hot water? And then you do it and go, yeah, I'm not doing that again. Like, it's that sort of thing. And it feels like there's something about that, even though I know it works, where I do feel I'm slightly mistrusting of it, even though I think it's a really cool thing if your tap can do it. I love it. I'm endlessly impressed with people that have got it. I feel like, oh, that's like the future.
Well, I feel like it is, like it's being pushed. It's pushed now. Like if you go and buy a tap, I'm gonna go and buy a tap. It's all like, you're gonna get this in your tap. It's like, do you want it? You know that in your tap? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. But
what's in it? What's making it do that?
I think there's a couple of ways they can do it. One is a bit like a power shower, where I think it's being heated up locally, and another way you can do it, I think, is to just to have a large, like it's being heated up by going through a very narrow hot bit before it comes out. This isn't good science. And the other way is to have a tank of boiled water,
like an immersion heater you would have,
like that
in the olden days, like that, but a boiling bit.
We can get really, really, really hot water out of the tap. Like I wouldn't want to make a tea with it, but I can fill a hot water bowl with it.
Okay.
Yeah, from the tap without boiling it. If you want to be quick.
Sure. I would say as well, a hot water bottle from a kettle is one of those things you think you want, but like that is still too hot.
Do you have one of those like kind of furry covers around it?
Oh, I haven't used a hot water bottle in years, but I know the last time I did one, you need to have the thing on it, don't you? That's essentially protecting you from your hot water bottle being too hot.
Yeah.
But you know, it is hot. If you're doing it from
if it's really cold, that's what you need. I mean, like you're just basically saying.
Well, I would say your tap
heated.
is. Yeah, I would say your tap is probably about the right temperature for a hot water bottle if you can get it hot.
Yeah.
The boiling water hot water bottle, where it's in your bed, but you've basically created a little molten pool that you'll kind of. That's as bad as like when I was a kid. I remember like one of the worst feelings in the world would be my foot touching a cold hot water bottle in the morning. Would be like, oh God, that's the worst. Whereas I would also say that the flip side of that is if you've got one and you've got a red hot one, it's that is too hot. Too hot. Also, I know people that have been burnt when their hot water bottles leaked.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. I mean, it is a sort of very old-fashioned thing to put like an actual boiling water in it with just a screw cap in your bed. It does. When I do one now for the kids, I'm like, this doesn't
feel right.
This feels like not health and safety. I bet they don't do this in hospitals.
Yeah.
With going back to kettles,
Hmm.
we've got one of those kettles that you stick on the hob.
Yeah, and I'm actually impressed with yours. Yours is one I've been impressed by. I mean, maybe I'm not thinking about it
We've got it because we
constantly of
have
a tea.
2 plug sockets in our entire kitchen. 2 plug sockets. And one of them's going
Oh wow.
toaster because I'm not toasting on the grill. Like, forget it, you know, like, or over a open fire with a toast fork, you know.
So
So
what's
there's
the
one.
second one?
Second one is currently a coffee grinder. That's not
Right.
not my department, but there's currently a electric coffee grinder, which I think is
Okay.
like sledgehammer to crack a nut, almost literally. But it's been a juicer at other times. You can see it's not really my area, that other plug socket, but it's
You got the
super
toaster.
annoying. I use the toaster for sure, but the kettle on the hob, when we bought it, when we were deciding whether we needed to have an electric kettle or one on the hob, I looked into it and tried to find out which one was more efficient. See, and they should theoretically, right, both use exactly the same amount of energy, and the only deciding factor, because it can go faster if you've got more heat, so that
Mhm.
you can easily make a faster electric kettle, but the only difference might be that the gas has it slightly on the edge when it comes to edges it on efficiency, because gas or something has been burnt to make the electricity, or something has created the electricity, and then there's some loss when it's coming to your house, right? Whereas the gas coming to your house has less loss, and you're then converting it into energy at the point when you're using it, and there might be slightly less wastage.
Well, that's that. I mean, I always thought there was always that idea that boiling a kettle is actually very uses a lot of energy, and that
Mm.
would be a negative towards them. That they're kind of that what you're doing isn't really energy efficient at all, which is
No,
something
but
I was aware of. But it's quite nice if it isn't as bad as I
I
think it
just think
is.
it's the same. I think to boil the water takes the same amount of energy to get it to boiling, so
Right.
that, I think, that's however you do it, it's going to take the same amount of energy.
Yeah,
Then you're
I've been
only talking about.
impressed. Is your one? Is it copper? Your one?
No, I don't think so. I think it's I don't know. I think it's steel.
I don't know. Okay. Well, it does it well, and I've
Yeah.
been impressed by its. By the time it starts whistling, I'm like, oh, that's pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, see, as a person that doesn't really drink hot drinks, my main criteria for a kettle is can be poured properly without just dribbling all over the floor.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
almost no kettles have that ability. So it's just fine. I'm happy
yeah.
with my kettle,
Yeah.
but it's definitely not in my top 5 things beginning with K. I'm just saying, just
No,
like,
sure, sure.
that's minor for me.
Also, I forget that a kettle on a stove is going to be pretty much all covered. Whereas I always think, like, if you're trying to boil water for like pasta or
Mm.
something, or to boil an egg with is
Mm-hmm.
probably a better. The amount of time you're just sitting waiting for that thing
Why
to
don't you do it in the kettle and
boil.
then pour it in?
I do.
Okay,
Oh, I
good.
don't think I don't.
Okay, right.
Kettles is my number two.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
using
okay.
it.
Used it for
I love
everything.
it.
Use it for
I love it.
everything.
But there was something I did recently that was like boil a pan of water, and I
Mm.
remember not trusting myself to go. Could I? Is that going to ruin it if I just do a kettle? So I did it properly, but it was like, come on, guys, it's 2021. Come on, heat up already. Start bubbling.
Did you put the lid on?
Yeah.
Okay, second. My number 2 is close to being my number 1, but it's my number 2.
Mhm.
It's Kate Bush. Kate
Okay.
Bush, singer songwriter from Bexley Heath, and it might not have me down as the biggest Kate Bush fan, and I don't like some of her records. Like,
Hmm.
her voice goes later, and she makes some choices on some albums where I'm like, I'm not so into this one. But I think she's like the best lyricist. I'm not really a lyrics person. Like, that sounds ridiculous because I listen to loads of stuff with great lyrics that I like a lot. But for me, music's got to sound good first.
Yeah.
Lyrics comes later. Do you want to tell me
Yeah.
about Bob Dylan or something? I just read a book, get someone else to sing it. Like, I don't need lyrics for the sake of it. I need music, and then you have great lyrics. But her songwriting, the lyrics specifically, probably my favorite. Probably my favorite.
Yeah. I can see that. I love Kate Bush. And actually, maybe she should have been in my top five, but exactly the same. There's some things she does, I'm just not into it.
Hmm.
Or it's just like, it's a bit like, I don't know. There's different intersections of things I like, but it's more like aesthetically sounding things that I'm like, no. But I think you're exactly right. I think she's great. I think she's a great lyricist. And I think she knows that. And I think almost the best lyricists are people in music, is because she's using the words she's choosing are both seem completely about something, but I think she's one of those people who it also doesn't necessarily matter because she's using her voice as an instrument. So she's adding something like
Yeah.
where the words, it's almost like that thing where you're probably limited again, like we were talking with the kind of Mario music and things. It's that you can only say certain words because they probably have to be in a certain key to match everything else.
Yeah,
It's got
or
that
the
sort of
timing.
like,
It's the
yeah, yeah.
timing, the way they fill spaces, and that's all words in music should be
Mm,
servant to the music, in my opinion. And that doesn't
yeah,
mean you
yeah,
can't write a great song. You absolutely can. You
yeah,
should, but you don't have to. You don't have to write great lyrics, but you do have to make great music. Like
yeah.
if it's not great music, read a book. It doesn't. There's
Mm,
no point. And she just makes for not. I think Hounds of Love album is a perfect album, pretty much, or at least the
mm,
first side is like as good a side of vinyl as ever has been recorded. Incredible. Um, so many songs off that. Cloud Busting, Money Up the Hill, Hounds of Love itself. It's just to have those songs and to put them all as singles as well. Put
yeah, yeah,
all of
yeah,
them as singles of that album. It's like breathtaking.
yeah.
It's she's so singular in that way. She's the first woman to have a number one album in the UK. I think that's true. First, yeah, I think that's true. And then she's like the first person to write her own singles and have hit singles. That's like she was in the 80s. Her first album's
Mm,
1979. This is it was very
yeah.
late coming to have that sort of thing, and
But
America had
she's
many
very
more
young.
people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
She's like,
19
what
when the
was it,
first record comes
19 or
out. Yeah,
something? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but it's astonishing how good that first record is. And
yeah.
yeah, and this woman's worth this woman's work, which is behind me. No song can make me cry like that. It's incredible. That the She's Having a Baby, the John Hughes film, Kevin Bacon,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and she wrote the song for that, having watched the footage of him realizing that his wife's childbirth is going all wrong, and the baby and her in mortal danger and stuff. And so it's written from his perspective, and yeah, she wrote it for the scene and stuff. And the film's a bit sort of soppy and it's not the best John Hughes film, but it feels manipulative or whatever. But if you can watch that sequence with the song and not bawl your eyes out, you're not
Yeah.
human. It's just it's easily the greatest song about that's the only song I know of about the worry of becoming a father and the sort of like absolute uselessness of being there,
Mm,
of men during childbirth, and how terrifying that can be, like, and it's written by a woman,
mm.
it's astonishing.
I think the Hounds of Love might be the album I don't know. It's probably in easily the top 5 things I play most.
Yeah,
I think.
because it's so solid. You can put
Yeah,
Hands of Love on. There's no point in Hands of Love where you're going to go, oh, I wish I'd skipped this track, or I wish I hadn't
yeah,
put this on. Actually, it's not that good. It's only those singles I like. It's a stunning album, end to end.
yeah.
Quite
Should
brilliant.
be.
And also, she made the Ken Livingstone song. That's always funny. Ken, that's pretty great. Like the fact that she made a remake of Shaft about Ken Livingstone was funnier when Ken Livingstone wasn't such a sort of demonic figure as he is now. But like it was, yeah. And also you can't talk about Running Up That Hill without talking about the 1980s BBC kids drama, Running Scared.
Running Scared. Yeah. Of course not. Yeah, that's. I mean, probably where I heard it,
Yeah,
and
me
probably
too.
one of those things that really like. I do think stuff like that really plants a seed early on,
Yeah,
and you're going to have that forever.
yeah,
It's
because
sort of, and it becomes
amongst
like a
amongst the TV themes, and we love the TV themes from that period, but they
yeah,
were very much TV themes made by TV theme composers at the BBC in a small room where the TV theme composers have to make the TV themes, right? And
mm,
that was like an avant-garde pop song,
yeah,
you know, with being played over kids. It was a terrifying TV show, as I remember it.
yeah. It was like homeless kids, wasn't it? Like someone who sort of finds herself homeless.
Yeah, but
But yeah, like
there were
hearing that
police in it
really.
who were like sort of bent police, like corrupt police and
Mm,
stuff. Oh, it's terrifying.
yeah, that's kids' TV drama in the UK in
In the
the
80s, yeah.
70s, 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that stuff really plants a seed, and that for ages that song was always like, and I think even like, I think there was probably a period where I would have heard that first, and then like a couple of years later, been like, wait, it exists outside of,
Yeah, for sure.
um, yeah, it
For
exists
sure.
outside of Running Scared. Wow. Um, uh, Myself once and John Chandler tried to sing Running Up That Hill. I think it was at like a karaoke or something.
It was, yeah, I remember
And
that.
we absolutely couldn't do it.
No,
And
you
it's one of
can't
those
do it.
things that it's impossible. Of course it is. It's impossible. But like there was a kind of, yeah, let's do this. And then it was impossible to do. Absolutely impossible. And it's right, actually. And I think that's sort of good. I think it's a silly thing to have attempted, but it really does make you appreciate it. Like it's that thing where, in a way, like there's certain kind of singers who can sing in a way where you go, I'd love to be able to do that, but it's silly to try and even replicate it in your head without trying to do yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, certainly that
That
lyrics in that are incredible, but also because it's not even. I don't even think they're meant to be. I think it's just sort of. I think you're also reading so much into it. It sort of invites you to kind of go, "What do you think about this?" And you go, "Ooh," they're kind of quite simple as well. They're not.
yeah, but
They're not trying to
you
be
can take them out.
clever
Yeah, but
or
you can take them out
yeah,
of context. No, you're right. They aren't.
yeah,
They are generally very literal. Like she's like, I'm going to
mm,
write a song about this guy whose dad his kid who's kidnapped by the Nazis, but he was doing these experiments on how to
yeah,
make it rain. You know,
yeah,
and you know she
yeah,
didn't invent. You know, I hid my yo-yo in the garden. You know,
yeah,
like what made it beautiful made it dangerous, right? About the yo-yo. I'm pretty sure that's in the book, and she's gone like that could go in the song. I don't think she's like coming up with these crazy ideas like, oh, the boy's singing about his yo-yo. She's like, that's in the thing, so I'll put it in the song. But the way I
mm,
sing it will give it this profundity that it just doesn't have otherwise. And
I love that. Run out that hill. Every time it says it doesn't hurt me, and then
Mhm.
says immediately, "Do you want to know that it doesn't hurt me?" And
Yeah,
you go, "Oh God, it's
yeah,
horrible, horrible." It just kind of, it's already you go like, "Oh God, it's so," and it's a weird like it's quite simplistic and it's rhythmically it works because it's got the same thing repeated within its. It's very it's sort of clever, but it's simple,
yeah,
and it's kind of heartbreaking. It's cutting, and it's saying one thing, then immediately undercutting the thing it's just said, and being like, "Oh," and it's kind of yeah,
yeah.
absolutely
The
great.
one thing is that you're saying the way she could sing it, nobody else can sing like that. And the sad thing with that is that I do think when she came back in the 2000s stuff, and she couldn't sing
Mm,
like she did before because nobody can, and she
mm,
could, but you couldn't keep that up forever. And it's that's you've got singers out there who could absolutely continue singing the same way. Mick
yeah,
Jagger's never like, oh, I can't do that bit anymore. It's just he can do it. He's literally going to do it until he falls off the stage. Like he's proving that. Whereas I think if you're somebody who's a real kind of virtuoso singer in a way that you can only be when you're that age, and yeah, that's a sad thing to it in a way is that you can't continue to be that kind of
yeah.
voice.
And again, I really like that thing where it's the sort of trying to do the full package of being the kind of dancer, mime, and all that. I love all that stuff. I think it's great. I think all that stuff's really like being a proper kind of performer. And it makes it feel like you are doing something that's bigger as well than, I don't know, it sort of really adds something. And I think when you're thinking that way at 19 or whatever, and you're kind of interested in knowing there's a kind of, there will be a live element to what you're doing and being theatrical with it. And
Yeah.
I think that stuff's kind of super smart.
Yeah. I mean, like, the only person that I compare to her in a way is Björk. You know, she's the person that combines those things in a comparable way. And now we've got Twigs. I think she's phenomenal, but I don't think she's quite as ambitious. I mean, I don't think she's like, I'm going to do everything to that level. But we'll see. I mean, still on board.
So my number one is Kes.
Yeah, I knew it. When you said Kettle number 2, I was like, Kes 1.
I reckon I got your number one in my head. I reckon I got it. Yeah, Kes, 1969, Ken Loach. One of the bleakest, and I would argue, funniest films of its era. And I think that film is kind of perfect. And it's both kind of mixes kind of proper gritty kitchen sink coal mining town with also real beautiful pastoral countryside, and has that sort of, again, the soundtrack to Kes is great and is very that kind of almost sort of like flautist kind of music sound, and how sort of beautiful that kind of world is, and really is like really sums up a lot of that stuff, like being a child. And because he's also not really using a lot of actors, the performances all the kids give are so kind of perfect, and they really do appear to not know there's a camera filming them. The behavior is so kind of, it's so there's no ego in their performance, there's no like showing off, it's all just this sort of, I don't quite know how he does that. You sort of see it, you don't really see it in other British film. You sometimes see it in like sort of Italian films from the kind of 40s and things, and you sort of assume it's achieved by like long lens. But I think Ken Loach, especially at that time, was so good, and he's such a humanist as well, I think, and he's such a kind of like, although a lot of the films are kind of polemical, I think people forget that he's just, the thing he's most interested in are human beings, and it's just this sort of focus in on like these people, and you're, so before they've even done anything, you've totally invested in like every character who comes on screen, even if they're like, you know, the milkman or something. You kind of just have this kind of, oh, I know that guy is. And it's sort of the way it does that town and the kind of bleakness of setting this thing up where this kid's got no future and there's no way out, but he's given this kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a holiday. He gets a holiday from it all by having his kestrel. And it's sort of, it's so sad, but it's so, like the funny bits are so funny. And I think that's one of the things that I maintain. Like there's bits in that film I think are like, it really makes me laugh, and not in a way that's, and maybe your laugh in some of it might be there's a sort of release of tension, but I find some of it so funny because it, I mean, the jokes also come from it being real or just something someone says in reaction to something, because it's totally unpredictable from, because it doesn't feel scripted. It's this thing, people say things that you go, yeah, that is what they'd say. It's not what you would imagine they'd say in a sort of film script. I think it's kind of, it's great. I mean, I know people that can't watch it, and I feel sorry for them.
Well, because
I mean,
they find it too bleak. They say, "Oh,
they
that's
find
just
it
too bleak."
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't get that, because to me it's like, yeah, it's bleak, but it has in it all of the hope and the spirit of humanity. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah. And it's very like, and it is like, it's not, um, there's horrible stuff in it, and it does kind of end in a way that you're not particularly like hopeful, and there's really kind of weird, surreal bits in it.
Mm.
You've got a bit where he reads the dandy, and then it's like it's almost like a really clever bit of adapting a comic for a screen, where you just go through the panels of a comic and it cuts to the next panel and he reads it in his voice, and you go, God, that's interesting. And you just get this bit of, you get like in the middle of the film, you get a Desperate Dan comic strip,
Yeah, I remember.
essentially
Yeah.
read out to you. And you have, and you've got the things with like the scene where all the kids are playing football and they're hanging off the goals, and Brian Glover comes on, and as they're playing football through a school, the scores start flashing up like it's a TV game. It's sort of like you've got these like little moments of it. So it's like, it's such a great film as well, and it's such a, you never really, and it, there's lots of people, and lots of people since, there's lots of great directors in recent history that are kind of influenced by that film, and they're making really good films, like Cleo Barnard or someone, and she's doing really interesting stuff that's similar to it, but it feels like there's a period when Ken Loach is making these films that you then don't get for another sort of 20 years outside of Ken Loach films, which are these completely naturalistic British dramas that are just like, you just don't see this. And yet what he's doing is almost like a chronicle of this time through these eras, because no one else is doing it.
Yeah, and now
they do it
like,
in other countries.
But now it's like a genre. It's like a genre now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we have, like, I just watched the Jack Thorne, Stephen Graham, Jodie Comer Help the other day, and it feels very much Ken Loach influenced. Do you know what I mean? And you were reminding me of, do you remember what was the one he did, Sweet 16?
Yeah.
And again, that was with a child actor, or not a child actor, a child. And he gets an incredible performance out of this kid, and he's got that real talent for that. And
a lot of these guys do grow up to be like big actors, and they're just people who were found. And then after that, I really like that. And in a way, the sort of curse of it is a lot of them do it, and then they sort of become too famous to be in Ken Loach films again, because they sort of then end up being in like TV. It's a bit like, you can't really do it now because everyone knows who you are, because you're off this now. But like, but yeah, there is, there is that really is a sweet spot, that period, I think, as well. Almost like from the kind of TV stuff to this sort of film, and film is almost like it works for him so much better than TV, and especially in that period where TV cameras are big and you can use outside broadcasting things, but you're watching TV. And when he kind of makes something like Kes in the late 60s, and he gets to the point where he's a filmmaker, it works so much better for him than it does for other people, where it doesn't necessarily matter as much, because he's really invested in the idea of film being this thing which is like a sort of completely artificial eye that's looking at things. It's not like you stop being aware of the camera, especially in those films. It's like, scene to scene, I think it works like if you're watching a really like if someone watches, like, when people talk about like Jaws or Goodfellas or Back to the Future, and people go, oh yeah, you can watch that film at any point and you'll never stop watching it, because you go, I'll just watch this bit. This is the bit where that happens. Kes works like that. It's like every scene is such a kind of memorable bit. You go, I just watch this bit.
Yeah.
I just watch a bit where he goes to a chip shop. I just watch, but you're not talking about big. You're not talking about big set pieces.
It's not a
no.
It's not a shark.
You're not like oh, it's not the bit where like, oh, I'll just watch a bit where he's on coke and he gets paranoid for a bit, and then you get to the end of the film. You're literally going like, oh wait, I'll just watch this bit where he goes to the chip shop. Wait, I'll just watch this bit where the kids are getting caned. Wait, I'll just watch this bit where it's like that. It's so incredibly watchable as well. It's such a kind of watchable film that you can watch at any point and get sucked into it, and you're immediately sucked into this film. And like, I don't know, I probably didn't see it till I was about 14 or 15. But you do come out of it and you go like, I couldn't fault it. It was just so like, it's kind of perfect. I think it's watch it. I watch it a lot, and but I love it. I love it so much, the film. And I like, and when when anyone ever mentions like that they like it, it's one of those things where you go, you can kind of give a real like, of course you do, of course you do, like why wouldn't you? It's a real like nod to people that love it. Whenever it mentions, it's a real like, my ears will prick up and go, what, are you a big fan of Kes or something? Like we had on Fan Club, the other podcast they do, we had Johnny Vegas on, and he was like, what's your favorite film? Kes. You go, of course it is. Of course it is. Like, of course it is. Of course that's your favorite film.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you go, immediately you go, yeah, of course, because it sort of taps into something, and I think it's absolutely brilliant film.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kes.
I will link in the show notes. Nat did recreation of a scene from Kes for Richard Stanley's Perfect Movie thing that he used to do, and did them live, and that was good. Did it live, that was good. But then they recorded them and filmed them. It's so good with you playing the kid.
I do think, like, of all the things, when I see things I've done,
yeah,
I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, because of
how
how much time I try to go, right, if we're going to do Kids, we're going to try and do the most accurate reconstruction of everything. And I tried to do it. I'm not an actor, but what I did was, if I'm going to do it, I'm basically going to learn the lines and the mannerisms. That's what I try to do. It's like, so I try to do it. I try to do it proper.
It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite things you've ever done. So I think I'll definitely link to that. It's hilarious.
It's great movie. Love it.
My number one is probably, as you guessed, Nat, is the band KMD.
Yeah.
Is that what you get?
Guess that. Yeah.
Band KMD, causing much damage. They were initially known as, but then quickly as they got more sort of conscious and into their black rights and sort of black power vibe, they changed it to a positive cause in a much damaged society. And there were three guys, Zev Love X, his little brother Sub Rock, DJ Sub Rock, and Onyx the Burstone Kid. They had another member before who left before they recorded anything, but three guys from Long Island. And yeah, Zev Love X went on to be quite famous later as MF Doom. The KMD came out, their album came out in 1991. First album, Mr. Hood, and it's the only thing that I can compare it to is like the second De La Soul album as far as rap records go. It's very witty, it's a bit dark, it's very smart, and it's funny. You know, it's silly, but it's dark too and has strong message. It's a phenomenal record, and I had it from I think Holloway R Price on cassette. Not in 91. I think in about 93, I picked it up, and I've loved it since then. It's a weird record. You know, the lead off single for it was called Peach Fuzz. It's about how they can't grow any facial hair, any convincing facial hair, because they're too young, and all the girls are laughing at them. You know, the chorus is kind of like, still I'm judged by the hairs on my chinny chin chin, as they go into the chorus. And that's on the silly end of what they do, but it's kind of, I'm not good at talking about this. I love this record. I love the second album, which never came out and then came out later. But and especially Doom, like the writing on there is so clever, The first song is um is Doom on his own, and he's talking about a kid at school who would throw rocks, right? In the not at school, in the kindergarten, right? Who would throw rocks, and it was dangerous, you know. But it's also a metaphor for how this kid was a drug, you know, it's a metaphor for drug dealing, right? And there's a bit where he hits the kid with the well, he nearly throws a rock at the kid. And the line he says, right, is considering his aim, I warned he could hurt others with his game. Miss Kreisman warned the same. That is not a line that you get in hip hop songs in 1991. Miss Kreisman warned the same. Like, it's the way he phrases things, the sense of humor. It's just most people don't pick up that line. It's just a story, and he flicks through it. But I absolutely love this record. He went on to be a kind of hugely influential and celebrated rapper after his Sub Rock died in a car crash, and Doom went on to sort of disappear, sort of go to the dark side a bit. He had time in jail. He was broken by his brother's death and being dropped from the record label and all this kind of thing. Came back with a much darker sort of style, and it was also a different era then. You know, the early 90s, late 80s is a very sort of innocent time in a way in hip hop. You have all this, you know, very sort of kind of light-hearted records that is not possible to do later on, really. And and I love the later Doom stuff. I love it just as much, really. At least the stuff he did from like 97 to 2003, 4 sort of thing. It's amazing. But the KMD, it's just nothing like it. It's like I said, there was this moment where you could do some things in hip hop that you then couldn't do because the kind of gangster rap came in, and everyone had to be a lot harder, and the kind of the options got limited. You could still make interesting, different sort of music, but you had to be kind of tough too. You had to put that in there, and you know, on the KMD record, they say the motto is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I prefer love, hugs, and hip hop soul. That's really corny, right? But it's like nice that they could be that corny then, you know? These are like really positive, like religious guys. They were all, you know, Muslim sort of conscious kids, you know? And it's just, it has like a sunny kind of hopefulness of that period of time, late 80s to early 90s, when you had hip hop and house and, you know, these things kind of bubbling together and having a pretty nice outlook. And then the darkness comes in of the 90s, and by the time you have the same character Doom being a real master later on. But KMD weren't big. They were like a spin-off group of third base or white rappers.
I was going to say, what was the thing that made you pick up the record in?
Oh, it would have been just Peach Fuzz would have got played on you know, Kiss FM or Tim Westwood and stuff. And they were like, they had on their record Brand Nubian, you know, they felt like if you like Tribe Called Quest, if you like Brand Nubian, if you liked De La Soul, you like KMD, it's like the next one to get sort of thing. And it had the, you know, bright coloured cover on the single and that kind of thing. So it had that kind of, they're like another one to get along those lines. And don't get me wrong, I was listening to the really hard. I was listening to NWA and Compton's Most Wanted and Above the Law and this stuff, but I love this because it was just weird and particular. You know what I mean? It's like any great musical thing where you have guys just doing something. No one said they could do that. No one gave them permission. They're just like, oh, we're going to do this. We've got all our ideas. You know, we've got it all figured out. We want to do this. We want to tell a whole story through our record. Have these crazy skits. You know, the album is all the skits in between songs are Learn to Speak. I think it's a Learn to Speak Danish record or something, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, maybe it's a Learn to Speak English record from Denmark. And so there's a character which is the I would like to buy some wine, which is the, like, you know, the teaching you the language of a record. And they interact with him like, oh yeah, we don't have any wine, but you know, I got 2 Goya nectars, you know, this kind of thing. They go backwards and forwards with this Mr. Hood character. It's just incredible, conceptually incredible, and it's a lovely stuff. And Doom died last year. That's kind of brought a lot of this back, how much his records meant to me for decades and stuff. And he didn't stay great forever. He stopped making good music about 2005 or something, but he just got a lot of love for him and that music they made back then, him and his little brother. And yeah, so as soon as it was K, it was like, oh, it's got to be KMD #1. Absolutely.
But you also had like a KMD fan site and thing, didn't you?
I did. I had a KMD fan site in the 90s, in the late 90s. It was called Let's Enter This Jewelry Shop, which is the first line of the first album. And there was probably 2 sites on the internet that mentioned KMD at that point and MF Doom. And it was like people would send me things from around the world, like, oh, I got this clipping from a magazine in 1992. I'll send it to you, scan it in, whatever.
Yeah, but I don't know. I find that stuff really like that early internet stuff. It kind of was that. Like if you like something, you're building something up from the ground floor. You've got no, it's not all digital. It's not.
Yeah, like, somebody like
there
that.
Isn't this information there?
No, there was no Wikipedia, let alone Discogs or Spotify or somewhere where you'd find all about an artist and that kind of thing. So it was like, yeah, if you had your little niche thing you were into, it was like, oh, there's literally nobody else doing this, or there's one guy in Michigan who's doing this. Yeah, it was big fan. I don't think I'm very good at talking about them, but
no, I think that comes. I think it comes across well, But
if the first KMD album, Mr. Hood, second one's a bit darker and very angry young black man, angry record. Whereas Mr. Hood is this lightness of kind of teenagers, and I would recommend Mr. Hood to anybody who likes kind of smart, silly music. It's really a lovely record, and it doesn't have, if you're like, not, I don't really listen to hip hop because it's all swearing and misogynist and all this stuff, this is not that record. You could check this record out if you like De La Soul or something, or if you like, I don't know, what's a good example, even something really poppy like a Fresh Prince or something. It's fun like that, but with real intelligence behind it. So
but I think like I didn't know KMD at all before you were talking about them, and it feels like now I do see stuff about KMD now, but it feels like very much like it's they've sort of have been reappraised recently.
Yeah, I think because Doom did get really big, and he got bigger after the fact in a way. Like, so he made his best records, either you'd say 98 or 2003 or something. In that period, it's like a 5-year period, some sort of thing where he's making his best records probably. And but there's new kids getting into him all the time now. They're not listening to. There's loads of little kids. Weren't even probably born in '98. And they're like, yeah, of course they weren't. Yeah. Kids weren't born in '98.
Kids born in 1998 aren't kids.
Shit. Yeah. Okay. So they're getting into it, and they're like, they're going back and they're checking out KMD, and some of them I see them online being like, that's too old. I can't listen to that. But some of them are like, oh, this is really smart. This is really good. So, yeah, it's definitely got much more appreciation than it ever had at the time. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. That's my K's.
Right. We've done our K's. Any other honourable K mentions?
Yeah, I've got some good K mentions, right? Staying on the music tip, I've got some other rappers. I can't have a top 5 Ks that are all rappers, but King T, Cool Keith, Cool G Rap, top K rappers. That's K is a strong letter for hip hop. Strong. Can Kick as well. He's a producer. Kool and the Gang. I think people think of Kool and the Gang as being like, ladies' night and celebration and stuff. Forget that. The first album, the self-titled album, is as good as any music ever recorded, and right through the 70s they make phenomenal music. I don't think necessarily they came up with great songs, but they're just one of the best bands for actually just sitting down at their instruments and play some rhythms. Incredible. So they're up there. Kraftwerk, I love Kraftwerk. I don't love all of it. Some of it's too spare for me, but I love them. I love the influence they had, and I absolutely love the Computer World album. It's just one of my favorites. So got to have them in there. So again, I think it's a strong. And you add the Kinks in there. It's a strong letter for
It's
the
a
music.
strong letter. I got other music. Yeah, well, of course, I've got King Louis. King Louis
King of the
from the Jungle
Swingers.
Book, King of the Swingers.
Yeah.
So he's also one of the great K's of music. I've got the film Kind Hearts and Coronets, the Ealing comedy, which goes neck and neck with things like Lady Killers, Lavender Hill Mob with me. But maybe Kind Hearts and Coronets might be the best one.
Mm.
But it's brilliant film, brilliant movie. I got Kathy Burke.
Oh, that's a good
Kathy
one.
Burke. I got
I might like
the
Kathy Burke
first.
more than Kung Fu, actually. Kung Fu movies. It's hard to say.
This is the problem we get into. I got Carl McLaughlin. Carl McLaughlin, a man who's responsible for me saying weird phrases that I thought I was the only one who said it, and it's only when you revisit it you go, "Oh no, it's just something Carl McLaughlin says on Twin Peaks that I've obviously been saying since I was 10."
Yeah.
Lots of that. When I see like one of those people, you go, "This man's had a weird influence on my life, and I didn't even know it happened."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
We got some more.
Jack,
Let me do some. I've got
go for it.
I've got kites. I'm quite a big fan of kites. The toy, not the bird. I've got
Right,
no
yeah,
problem with the bird, but I probably
not in the top,
prefer a kestrel.
not one of the best.
No, but kites are pretty amazing. And kite surfing, that's amazing. We were watching some of that in Greece this summer, and I've never done it, and I'm never going to because it'd probably just break me in half. I'm not built for it anymore. But yeah, that's incredible to watch. People just flying in the air from a kite over the
Do you
sea.
like box kites?
I
You
like
got a
box kites, but I like a stunt kite. You know, like a two-hander. That's fun. That's fun. But all kites, dragon kites, kites are great. I was scared of kites when I was a kid, though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because we had an octopus kite. It was really good. We had it up on Hampstead Heath, and the string snapped and it flew off and landed in a tree. And I was small, and I was devastated, and I was scared of kites for like 10 years after that.
because you associated loss
Yeah,
with kites. Interesting. Um, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is an interesting guy from having
yeah,
a career in basketball, kung fu movies, and now as a 77-year-old man writes Sherlock Holmes books. Love that as a career.
yeah. And
Love
he's
it.
been an academic as well. He's an incredible man. Yeah, incredible
What a
man.
life. What a life. What else have I got?
I got another movie. I got King Kong, the original King
Oh yeah,
Kong.
yeah.
Pretty amazing movie, and again had quite a big effect on me. I saw it as a kid at NFT Kids Club, and it's
That's a
quite a
good kids
scary
club.
film to see. Scary, it's terrifying. They only showed terrifying films at NFT Kids Club back then, I think.
I always think that's what you should watch when you're a kid, like
Tell it to my
weird.
kids.
Yeah, yeah. You might not be able to, but slightly disturbing. God, yeah. I wonder how kids would make of that now. I mean, I suppose the same. It's
They
not
probably
like
wouldn't
we
be
were
that
born in the
upset
30s.
because it's so old fashioned looking that they'd find it only, like sort of that maybe they wouldn't
Mm.
relate. I don't know. But then it's not like it was any less old fashioned
Yeah, I was
looking
going to
when I was a
say it was
kid.
in the yeah. It would have been 45 years old or something
Yeah,
when I was born.
but it's 85 years old now. But yeah.
Sure, sure.
I've got
Uh,
another one I've got is Crazy Golf. Now,
oh yeah,
hear
yeah.
me out here. No way you spell it because it's crazy. You spell it with a K. It's not
Oh no, I
C.
think that's absolutely legitimate.
Crazy Golf with a K.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And then one that I don't think we'd expand it to a whole show, but Kevin's. I know some great Kevin's. Don't you know great Kevin's? Kevin's
Could
are
be a
top.
show.
Top five
Maybe that'd be a
Kevin's.
show.
I don't know. We're not just allowed to do friends of ours, you know?
No, sure. Sure. I
Maybe.
reckon. I don't know. There's probably some scope for that. Maybe I think about that. I've got Commandy, specifically Jack Kirby Commandy comics,
Yeah, Commander's a cool
and
character.
then I'm pretty much left with got some bad ones. Have you done all your good ones?
Oh no, I've got three more good ones that I just added
I
during
got a
the
couple more good ones.
during the
Okay, go for it.
recording because I'd forgotten about Silent K's. Knickers. I like knickers.
Right.
Yeah, I like knickers. Knights. Yeah, quite fond of knights. Not what's the word? Not crusaders, not that kind of knight, but more like a German knight, medieval knight, that kind of thing. Into that. And knives.
I got knives.
Knives. I like
Yeah,
a nice
knives.
knife.
Knives was almost in my top 5 because I was thinking about it. Like,
Yeah.
but then I thought you can't. I was thinking of it like necessities, like desert island.
Yeah.
You want to have a knife.
Yeah.
But
No,
then I
I
was thinking, wait. But then I can't have
I thought
necessities.
of knife when
in
you
the top
said
5.
kettle. I was like, oh, I like a knife. If I
Yeah.
had to keep only one, utensil, it probably would be a knife. It'd be hard to eat soup, but I guess I need a spork.
I've got kebab as a food, Kay.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I'm a massive kebab fan, but there are certain kebabs and I'd say kebab shop food, which is great. Like I think sometimes like a quarter pounder from a kebab shop is sometimes the best quarter pounder you can have. It's a different thing. Like the difference between that and something a McDonald's quarter pounder is chalk and cheese. They're two different meals. But
chalk and cheeseburger.
Yeah. But things chicken shish more than a regular kind of
Doner.
lamb kebab or doner or something, I think.
Oh yeah, I love a kebab.
Yeah. Any more good ones?
No, I can do some worse ones.
Do some worse ones.
Yeah. Bad Kevin Spacey. He's definitely in the bad ones now. Bad case.
Yeah.
He's got to go.
Yeah. I wasn't a massive fan to begin with.
No, I was.
And I feel
wrong.
like
I always had him down as a wrong one.
Like no, I wouldn't even say wrong. He's definitely been in some things I like, but there was something I never went all in on Spacey. I mean, it's easy to say now, but I didn't. I never went all in. Always a bit suspicious. Katie Hopkins, Knotweed.
Knotweed
As a gardener, I wondered if you had.
Knotweed is bad. Do you know what? I've never really had to tackle knotweed that much, which is lucky me, But yeah, knotweed is bad news. Very bad news. I mean, I've heard people like selling their house because they had knotweed in their garden.
I've heard this happen.
Then you can't sell the house. People find out. You have to pretend you don't have it. Quick sell it and then get out. Terrible.
But for my bad ones, that's about it. It's a good letter.
I've got a couple more.
Letter.
Got a couple more. The word kooky.
Oh yeah.
That's terrible. Get out. Terrible word.
I don't know. I'm all right in it in the context of the Addams Family theme.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But so let's say any use of the word kooky after the invention of colour TV. Yeah.
I don't like it as a reference to anyone, and it never makes me think I'd like them. It's like, whereas actually, it's like, I don't think you mean that.
But it's like when I think they're probably fine. When I was describing that first KMD album, I could have said it's a rap album from 1991. It's a bit kooky, but then you, the listener, would have done the right thing and gone, "Well, I'm never going to listen to that. Sounds rubbish." So yeah.
Do you know what though? In a similar vibe, I quite like the word hokey.
Hokey's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I use hokey in a kind of. I've often said it's hokey in a good way. That's what I say.
Yeah, and it's half of a hokey cokey, which is good.
Yeah.
My worst K though is karaoke.
Karaoke.
Yeah. See, you don't. Is that
because you were there when? No, I'm not a fan of it.
I'm not. I've done karaoke once in my life, and that took that took all of the alcohol and confidence I could possibly muster. I can't. Karaoke is like the biggest challenge for me in the world because I can't sing a note. I can't sing at all, right? But I love music.
Yeah,
I would love to be able to sing, but my singing is awful, and I can fully hear how awful it is. So I am infinitely unconfident. I'd love to be one of those people who's like, I don't care how it sounds. I'm just going to have fun, and everyone's going to be like, look at that guy having fun. I'm not capable of that.
Yeah, remotely. I think I'm like that. Dancing, I think, is that for me.
Right.
I can't. It's just a thing. I won't enjoy it. I'd love to enjoy it. I'm too self-conscious. I can't do it.
So with your dancing and my singing, we could make the perfect worst musical performer of all time. Yeah, the worst boy band. To be honest, quite a lot of boy bands have got one guy that can't dance and one guy that can't sing. That's not.
Yeah, and what's nice is we wouldn't be. Even though it'd be like, I still like these more than insert several boy bands here.
North and South. Yeah, karaoke is just no. I mean, I'm. Do you know what? I'm not against karaoke for the
Yeah,
people that can enjoy
I
it.
know what you mean.
That's great. You guys are great people, but I'm not, and I can't enjoy it. I
Mm,
can't really enjoy
I
other
can see
people
this.
enjoying it, really, because I feel my own inadequacy.
Yeah, and I think there's always that sense of like being expected to join in on something
Yeah, why is
where
a
it's
guy
like, oh,
in here
I'm enjoying you watching
not doing it?
watching
It's
you do
like
it.
being fully clothed in a sauna or something. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Mm.
hot water bowl.
Yeah. I think K's a solid letter, but it is a niche letter. I think it's no S. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
it's
like
no.
what I mean is, it's kind of alternative in every way. It's like kind of K's. It's got an edge to it. It's got a kind of what an interesting letter with the K's. It's not a C. C is a mainstream letter, I'd say. K's are in what's a K in Scrabble? I think it's for four, isn't it? It's not even that big a. Um,
Uh,
it's not like J. That's eight, isn't it? I think K might be four.
I can't tell. I haven't got a Scrabble set to hand. I've got a Boggle over there, but that's not going to
No,
tell
it's
us much.
different. I reckon if we hang on, I can probably find out in
Picked up a really
seconds.
nice '70s Boggle set from the charity shop the other day. I'm
I
gonna.
saw yesterday smashed on the floor outside a travel Scrabble.
Oh,
I just was
smashed
like,
on the
"What's the
floor.
story here?" K. Oh, five. 5 points.
5 points. That's a decent score.
Oh, decent score.
Stick that on a triple letter score. It's quids in. Well, we're back with list off. Thanks if you have
Hmm.
listened. Thanks for returning after all this time and not like
Yeah,
feeling abandoned to the
yeah,
point where you wouldn't listen.
yeah. We're always coming back. It was just lots of stuff happening, and
Yeah,
then missed connections of when we could do it.
and I think we're gonna do it every 2 weeks now.
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we could. That would might make it that might make it
If
easier.
we do every 2 weeks, and then if we find that we've got loads, we'll just go back to every week.
Yeah, I could
I
probably do
mean,
every
we've
week.
got a lot of letters of the alphabet to get through and a lot of names. We've only done
Sure.
top 5 Daves. There's a lot of other names out there.
Oh, you bet. There's tons of names. You got to get through to your name for one
My
listener.
name. Top 5
Yeah,
Aussies. Do you know what? You can make a top 5 Aussie, but it's really hard to make a top 10 because
yeah,
there just aren't
You-
enough.
yeah. You probably got some good ones, though. You got a
I,
few good
a
ones.
guy passed on the high street the other day. A guy came past in a van, like a truck, like a pickup, And he
Hmm.
was like, on the side, it had Aussie's Brickworks or something on it.
Yeah.
And I was staring at his thing, and the guy was looking at me out the window, like, what's the guy looking at? And I was like, my name's Ozzy. And he was like, oh. And he waved, and he was like, all right, Ozzy. And then he beeped his horn, and then he drove off.
It's a nice moment.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. The kids were with me, and they're like, that was weird, But I was, I had to account for the fact that I was just staring at this guy's thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
His thing.
There's some good.
His truck.
There's Aussie's newsagent and things. There's a few like
Yeah,
good shops and
we
things.
used
You
to
go
have we
like,
got still got Aussie's barbers on Camden Parkway. We had a few barbers back in the day on Holloway.
mm,
Cafe down by St Paul's. Got some Aussie's things around there. But it's still a niche name.
sure.
I don't feel like I'm like Legion, like Dave's.
No, no. If you go to like a theme park or like a, I don't know, like a Clinton's Cards, and you've got a named thing, are you ever on there?
No, I'm never on there. Maybe if one day if I go to one in Turkey, that'll be
Yeah,
a thing because they got a lot. Almost every Turkish name can be shortened to Aussie, so that's my
yeah.
best hope.
I saw when I was in the States when I was about 14. I found a little wooden block that said Nathaniel on it. No, I went, only time it's going to happen.
Did you buy it?
So I got it. Boy, yeah, yeah.
Still got
Got
it?
it. I think it's somewhere. But I thought, got to get it. You don't see these. It's rare. They don't sell many, but when they do, They sell one.
Bible Belt. That's what you need to be in the Bible Belt to get them.
Yeah. I guess also in America, it's probably a lot more common, isn't it? Probably a lot of Nathaniels.
Yeah, one of my top K rappers, Cool G Rap. His name's Nathaniel.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think we're definitely waffling now, so it's time to pull the plug.
You bet.
But yeah, tell your friends we're back. We're back. So
back. Shout about
subscribe, and or just thanks for listening.
Yeah, and I'm glad you've listened to this because we are back.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. It feels like there's a gap, but you're still there.
There was a gap. We're still here.
Still here. Still going. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Bye. What do I do now? Stop video. Oh, look.
No, have you stopped video? You stopped.
Oh, I've stopped. See, I forgot what I'm doing. Okay, start video. Stop.